Hi everyone, if you're watching a recording, do fast forward just one more minute and we're going to get started here. For those of you who are joining us live, we're going to start here in just a minute. Actually on time today. So close, but yet so far, right? Is it 1 o'clock yet? Is it Monday? Is it another week? Oh, wait, I have to change something. It is not week 72. It is, wow, week 73. I feel like maybe we should do something for week 75. I don't know. 75 is a significant number, isn't it? Or maybe we should just wait to the 2-year mark. We're getting there. Wow. Are we at 2 years? No, year and a half. Don't push that number, right? It's just a reminder of what all we've been doing for the last 75 weeks. I know. Here we are. Anyway, you ready, babe? Andy's asking for another minute. We'll give another minute. There is a report that the internet is crazy slow here, so let's give us another minute and we'll get there. Hello out there, Facebook user. Don't know who you are because I don't get a name and Andy's working, so we're close, we're close. Hope you guys had a good weekend. We sure did. I had a productive weekend, as I tried to do. And did not get to watch the closing ceremonies of the Olympics, but I'm sure it was great. Oh, shoot. I'll be right back. Sorry, I forgot my quench bowl in the other room. I'll be right back. Okay, quench bowl, here we are. Can't forget that, right? We'll be doing some soldering today. All right, let's get started. It is 1:02. Andy seems to be up and running. We plug him back in. Okay. Okay, so yes, I can hear you now. Hello, Maryland. And hello down there in the south, Cashman. Who's Cashman? Where's Cashman? Anyway, all right, I'm going to get started. It is 1:02 and we are in Ohio. Weather is nice and hot and muggy outside. Air conditioning's running, so we're going to stay right here. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I walked outside yesterday and went, okay, feels like I'm, breathing in soup, but oh, hey, at least the sun's shining and we are happy to be here. Today is Monday. August 9th, it is week 73 and it's Makeover Monday. If you're joining us for the first time, Makeover Monday is, oh, I didn't even grab the old project. You don't need to see the old project. I'm making over projects from last year that I felt was maybe could use a little freshen up or was a little uninspired or just another take on the project altogether. So today we are doing Pocket of Posies. This project looks nothing like Pocket of Posies, but the take on it was that we are just rolling over the metal and just a different approach. The project from last year had a flower on there. So let's see, what are you going to need today? You're going to need a bench block, a leather mallet, chasing hammer if you want to, but we're going to skip that, a multi-looping plier, maybe a Sharpie, a ruler, of course, a divider is going to be your friend, one of my favorite tools, and a shear. So, because we're going to be cutting some metal, and of course a file because we're cutting metal. The supplies that you're going to need are a pair of earring wires if you want to make this into an earring. So you can see here, or you can make this into a pendant if you want to, and you can just put a jump ring at the top. I used also 24 gauge copper sheet, some, what do I have here? Oh, gallery wire, some sterling silver gallery wire. And this little ball here is actually ancient grain casting bronze, which you all know I love. And on top here, I have 18 gauge wire. Okay. This particular one is brass, but you can use, of course, if you prefer silver, you can use silver. You can do this in all silver, all copper, all brass, whatever it is that suits your heart. And we're just doing a tricolor metal because, you know, we sort of can. So what kind of gallery wire do you need? I just happen to have some scrap, and so I used what I had on hand. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started and go through the steps. By the way, all these instructions are available on theurbanbeater.com for download. They are $5, but if you had made the purchase last year during the hot and cold series, this is part of the pocket of Posies, and you would actually get, let me think about that. I think hot and cold, we did both the hot and cold on one instruction sheet, which means that was only $5 for that. And you'll also get these instructions. So if you haven't purchased it, all three projects are going to be $5. Yeah. Okay, so I have a question out there. By the way, if you have questions, just go ahead and chat it in there. Andy's actually reading them to me. So the question is, how do you use the shears? And Dory out there has a pair with the curved tips. I'm assuming that she's talking about this curved tip here. Okay, and anyway, so. And how you use them. Okay, so the thing about shears is they come in straight and curved, right? So straight cuts straight, of course, but it also cuts a curve. It's not as easy, but you can see here, I'll cut this into a curve, you see? It's not as easy as if you were to have a pair with a curve in it, because here, you can see it will just curve so much nicer than the first pair that I had. But the key with the curved is, although a straight can cut curves, a curve cannot cut straight. So the chances of you getting this to cut really straight, yeah, no, it's a challenge. But I think also, in addition to your questions, you're talking about the shears that don't have the loops on the end, and that they only have a curve. Let me see. Like, hold on, I'll draw it out for you. Okay. I believe if the shears, they come down like this, right? If I understand that correctly. And how do you use that? Okay, let me think about this for a second, because I don't have a pair here. Obviously, I like mine with the loops. Am I following the right question, Andy? I have to think about this for a second. So if you don't have the loops to put your finger in, like so, by the way, you can always buy another pair at theurbanbeater.com, just saying. But, oh, I know how to do this. Hold on. Trying to figure out what I have on hand that I can just sort of mock up for you. I do have a pair here. Oh, here we go. Okay, so here, these don't have a spring in them. I don't like to, and they're not shears, but pretend they are, okay? And I don't like to have springs in my pliers because they're really hard on your hand, because it's natural to have your hand like this, which means it's natural to have them closed instead of always keeping them open, which causes a lot of stress on your hands. That's why I don't have springs on my pliers. But if you're using the shears that don't have the loops, how you use it is the same as how I would use my pliers without the spring. Do you see how I have it in my hands now? I put my fingers inside and I use it to push it open, and that's how I'm using the shears. You can't exactly just hold it out here because you'll be struggling with it every time. Or you can even, choose a finger that is most comfortable for you. So even in here, if I had the shears like so, let's go with the straight ones. So if I had a pair of shears like so and I didn't have the loops, I would put it in here And let's decide which finger do I like. I think I like the middle finger. Okay, so I can push it out and still use them like so. And you see, so I'm constantly, you have to have something to push it out. And you know, I know it's really awkward, but that's all I've got. I mean, that's it. You know, it's funny because when I first started using shears, it was really awkward for me too, because one of the things that you do when you're cutting, say a bezel, you want to cut it like with your hands up like this. I'm looking to see if I have a bezel that I can show you what I mean. And that's a really, really, really awkward way to cut things, but it works well. And after you've done it a few times, you know, you should build some muscle memory and it should become a little bit easier. Okay, I'm trying to find a bezel here that I can show you what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Two. I'll answer that in a second here. Okay, so here I have a bezel. Let's zoom in a little bit. So I have a bezel. As you can see, one of the things you do when you're cutting a bezel, just pretend that this is already soldered down, okay? And when you trim it, you're not supposed to hold it like this with your knuckles up, okay, and pointing down, because what's going to happen is you're going to gouge your metal. So when we cut a bezel, we always cut it like this with our palms up, and you trim it so that you're always cutting up the bezel instead of gouging down, thereby preventing you from cutting too much. So that's, you know, again, it's a very, very awkward feel, but after you do 2 or 3 of these, it should feel a little bit more comfortable. So I think it's a matter of using it a little bit more. Another question somebody just threw out there was, what is the cut on our student file? It is a number 2 is what it is. It's considered a medium. It's also considered standard. All right. Okay, hopefully we got a couple of those questions out of the way. So let's jump into the project. Okay, so first things first, we want the width. The key here, depending on what kind of gallery wire you are using, you will determine the width of your metal. So what I like to do is I'm just going to put it down and measure it, right? So it's probably going to be about 3/8 of an inch to a 1/2 inch. But I want a little bit of space in between, so I'll leave it at that. And I'm going to take out my divider. Hold on, I'm a little bit far off the table there. Like so. And we're going to measure it with the divider. And we're going to go like that. And using one end as a straight edge, I'm choosing this side, we're going to score it. Can you see that? All the way down. Take out your shears, straight shears, and cut it like you would just a cardboard. It's not quite like paper, it's a little heavier than paper if you've never cut metal before. There we go. So you can trim this before or after you roll the top, it's up to you. But you always want to leave, or for the size loop that I'm making, you're going to leave about a 1/2 inch. We'll go ahead and file this corner off really quickly. Just a quick little file, not a lot. And then we'll take out our multi-looping plier, and I'm using the second smallest to the smallest one, and I'm just going to roll it over. If you find this really hard to do, you want to go ahead and anneal your metal. And I'm going to go over here. I see my roll is slightly off, so I'm readjusting. So I'm doing both sides just to make it nice and even. Wow, not so even over here. Okay. And adjust it accordingly. There we go. So it's a nice roll. And then I'm going to cut these. I think I decided this one is going to be about 7/8 because I'm using scrap. So I was thinking, you know, one of the things about this project that's really great is we always end up with these little offcuts of gallery wire. And gallery wire is not cheap. It's expensive. So I never throw this stuff away. But then I don't throw much away. Let's go with that. And so it was like, oh, what a great little project to do and use up the scrap that I have. So you can see I have a couple pieces that were just left over. Yes, this one probably was enough to make a very small bezel, but why not use it here? So I'm just going to use the first one as a template because we all know I hate measuring, and I'm going to trim that, okay? Make sure they're nice and flat because we're going to solder this down. And I'm going to take a quick measurement here by putting this right up to the top. And we'll go ahead and mark that to the top of the loop there. Okay, just like so. And we'll trim that too. I'm going to trim it a little bit long. I can always trim that after I solder. Okay. So put this on your bench block and make sure that you hammer that nice and flat. And prep it for soldering. Okay, so there you go. Make sure it's flat down like so. And good contact on your metal. All right. Okay, let's set it up for soldering. For me, I'm going to use a tripod because I like heating from underneath when I have different colored metals, especially flat pieces like this. Okay. It doesn't matter what kind of solder you use here because we'll try to do this in one shot. I'm going to choose to go with a little bit of copper solder. And I'm just going to put some right on the edge here. If you're using silver, I would probably go with hard solder to start or medium solder, either way. Okay, so just a little bit on each edge on both sides, like so. Put that down. Line it up to the outside. And you know, if you don't like this design, you can also flip it so that the little prongs are to the outside. It's a different, instead of the inside, it's just a different design. That's all. And it's up to you whether or not you want to line up the little prongs. That may or may not be important to you. Meaning across from each other here. Okay. Go. Line that up nicely. Okay, there it is. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of solder on the bottom of my grain and do this in one shot because I can. You know how that goes. You know, I really do like to solder as much as I can in one shot. It also builds up my skills. It'll build up your skills, and hey, it also makes it a lot faster. Then you only have to pickle once, and you only have to clean it up once, that kind of thing. There we are, right in the middle. Okay. Heat it up from the bottom. Oop. Just like so. Nice and hot. Until it gets hot, I don't come over the top. One of the indicators is when the flux starts flaring up. There it is when I know the solder is about to move, and we'll do this side too. So the question is, am I trying to line up the prongs? Yes, I like the prongs lined up, but you don't have to. It's a design choice, so that's up to you. But if you're making earrings, I would make sure that both pairs are either lined up or they're not, right? Yeah, it's a thing. Even though probably no one would ever notice except you. Okay, there we are. Nice quench. Nice connection. The granules on also, so brilliant. I'm gonna throw that in the pickle and let's twist some wire. So it's a fairly easy project. It's a little easier than last year's pocket of Posies, I think. Pretty sure. It was easy too, but we'll add some different interest to this. All right, so now we'll make the twisted wire triangle on top. Does it have to be a triangle? No, you can make it as a loop too if you prefer. So I'm just going to cut some wire. If you're making two pairs, you probably want to cut about, let me think about this, 7 inches of wire, 6.5, 7 inches of wire. And we're gonna bend that right in half. And you know, this is brass wire, it's a little stiff, so I'm going to go ahead and anneal that before I twist it. It'll make my life a little bit easier. Okay. Give it a little quench. Okay, so you can put this into your flex shaft or you can do it by hand. I think today, just for yucks and giggles, because it's just a little tiny bit of wire, I'm going to do it by hand. I'm choosing to use my parallel pliers because it holds it really nice and stable. And then I'm going to pull out my awl and I'm going to start twisting. See how I'm doing that? See what I'm doing. My wire slipped out. Let's go back in. And actually, now that that's done, I don't twist by hand very often because putting it on the flex shaft or putting it in a wire twister does such a nice job with it. But it's just a little tiny bit of wire that I'm trying to do. So we'll just do it by hand. It's just something different to show you. But these are ways that you can get around machinery. Because think about it, you know, back in the day when they were doing this, they had to do it all by hand. Another way of doing it is to put it on your vise. But these are considered hand vices, so there. Okay. So I'm going to anneal this one more time, and then I'll throw it in the pickle before I do any bending. Because after all that twisting, it really gets nice and hard, which is great for different reasons, but I don't want it hard for this. Throw it in the pickle. While I'm in the pickle, I'm going to grab the other piece out. Okay, still not pickled. So while that's pickling, it's up to you if you want to oxidize it. This is absolutely oxidized. Let me grab some water and throw this into the microwave here. And we'll liver sulfur it. You know, liver sulfur for me is a great way to go with copper as opposed to like black max or some other really hard, or some other harsh oxidants, because I just find it to be too much for copper. So I like the colors that they produce when you're using it on copper, versus like a black max, which just turns it really, really hard black. Sometimes I don't want that. Okay, so there's some liver sulfur pulled out. Let's check this in the pickle again. Okay, the twisted wire actually finished before the other piece, sort of weird, but we'll go with that. And if you're using brass, you'll notice that it will turn pink. You'll have to clean it back up with some either steel wool or a brass brush. Okay. Put some of that in there. All right, let's see what's going on in the pickle. I lost my copper tongs. What the heck? Okay. There we go. Much cleaner. Much better. Get nice and dry, get it cleaned off. All right, let's liver sulfur this baby. So put it into whatever makes you happy. Wow, I like that. I like what it did to that. Look, it turned my silver blue. It's actually really cool. If you want it to match, you're gonna have to clean it up. But if you like this, check this out. Wow, too close. Look at that. It's sort of fun. Okay, I'm gonna pull out my brass brush here. I'm gonna use my little scratch brush because it's really nice and small, and it gets it into, oh, these crevices. Okay, I forgot to trim this off, so let's trim that now. Just like so. And we'll file those corners off. If you want to create a radius, I would take out my cutters and snip off the corner just a little tiny bit. It'll make your filing go a lot faster if you want to create a little radius on that. Like so. There's a fly in here. Sorry, it's attacking my face. All right, so here we'll do a little cleanup. But you know, it's funny, I really like this color, so maybe these are going to be just two pendants into a pair of earrings. But clean it up how you want to clean it up. Since I've got my brush out, I might as well clean this guy up too. So I don't know if you can see that in your monitor there, but the brass is absolutely coming up. from the pink. And I'm gonna switch out to my steel wool on this one. It'll make my life a lot easier. Trim the ends. See, this is why I like the brass wool, or I'm sorry, the steel wool. Nice and clean. I really do like the brass contrast with this piece. It gives it just a little bit more oomph. I'm gonna hit this too. Okay, see? That's what's really nice about these little brushes. I can just do this one section instead of taking out my big brass brush and then risk losing all that. So again, if you like the blue, like Janet likes, we just leave it like so, okay? So now here, what I'm going to do is I'm gonna bend this in half at the center. And what you want is you want to make sure, I think I made this too small, but you want to make sure that you make your V the width of your copper roll there. So it should be, like I said, it's about a ½ inch, just under a ½ inch, like so. And then we'll bend these in, and that's how it's going to capture on the inside. So I had just enough. Woohoo! Like so. Another pair of pliers here. That's it. Okay. Open it back up. I'm going to slip it in. Stretch it out. There we go. And we'll just squeeze it together. See? And give it a good tug. There should be enough going inside that it should not come out at all. I know this one isn't bent great, so I'm going to stick this in here and see if I can bend it just a little bit better. There you go. To the inside. Yay. Alright, so since I'm making pendants, let's see if we can grab, instead of an earring wire over here, I'm just going to grab a jump ring and add a jump ring to it. But that is how simple this is. So save your gallery wire scrap and use it for projects like this. It can be pretty cool. And never throw this stuff away. And you know, so there you go. Open and close a jump ring, swing it to the side, and you have a pendant. And I have liver of sulfur all over my hands. Look, that I had on the table. Eek. Okay, so you know, it's funny because as I was pulling all the material for this today, I was realizing on my bench here I had some scrap, like this leaf scrap. Right, I definitely have several pieces of that running around. That would have been a lot of fun to do the same way too. So just look at what you have and see what you can put to use. And as I was thinking about this for, you know, future projects, I'm constantly looking for future projects in a future series. And, you know, I've been thinking a lot. I know several of you have mentioned, what do we do with all the scrap that we've gotten from all the Zoom projects that you've done? I mean, heck, there's been over 100, right? So all the Zoom projects from the last year. So just to let you know, I haven't forgotten about you, and I've been thinking about making up projects using just simply scrap because, well, maybe I should be nice and show you. Hold on. Oh, no, I camera's not going to stretch. But there's a whole pile that's sitting over here that's off the camera, but that can be used for something. That could be great to use for something. I mean, heck, when I made this earring wire, I had a random bead running around, so why not throw it on there and give it a little bit of a doohickey, making it interesting. So definitely use your scrap and make something pretty out of it instead of throwing it away. You know, we're working on the zero waste thing. I know I'm a jeweler, but yet I'm working on the zero waste thing. Anyway, so that's it for me today. Hopefully you learned a little something. Hopefully you got a little bit of inspiration. We will be back on Wednesday with a UFO. Don't know what the UFO is quite yet, but I'm going to figure it out. I know it's going to be Pam, so she sent a couple up, and I have to wrap my head around that. And then on Friday we have the Zoom for the coined project, and at the end of the month we have another Zoom. If you haven't done enameling yet and want to jump into enameling, we'll be doing the separate but together project. Of course, I didn't grab the samples. I'll show you on Wednesday. All right, that's it for me today. Thanks everyone for hanging out. It was a quick one, but it was a nice project, right? I will see you on Wednesday. Thanks for liking and sharing all of our videos too. All right, have a great rest of the week.